Welcome in to the fourth stop of our whiskey adventure. My name is Bradley and I am here with you today. And we have got Wild Turkey Bourbon, the first bourbon on our adventure. Now before we start, I just want to make a few things clear. First, I am a huge fan of old fashions. I have been for a long time. And I prefer bourbon old fashions to rye old fashions. There's something about the spice, or that most places here use Canadian rye, which is just not quite there for old fashions, right? I don't know what it is, but I prefer bourbon old fashions to rye old fashions, which means I've had a lot of bourbon in my life. Everything from Wild Turkey, to Bullet, to Four Roses, to Maker's Mark, but I've only ever really had it in old fashions. And again, this was all before I was really thinking about whiskey at all. I've never ever had it neat, ever in my life. This is my first time I'm ever having bourbon neat. You can see there's a little bit missing from this bottle. That little bit is accounted for in, I put a little bit into the infinity bottle that I have going. So every time I open a new bottle, I just pour it into the infinity bottle. And at the end of this, we're gonna have like, I don't know how many whiskeys it'll take, but it should be like a 3 to 6 month blend in that bottle of all of the whiskeys we've tried on this show. And then, the rest of this that's missing, I made myself a really tiny, but a nice old-fashioned the other night. It was getting really hot here, so I couldn't help myself. I had this bottle of bourbon for this review, but it was just sitting in the house. Now, doing my research, I realized I should have got the Wild Turkey 101. I Googled Wild Turkey after I bought it. I bought it on a trip. I was just in the bourbon section. It was at like a decent price. The brand was familiar to me, so I thought, hey, this is probably the best bang for my buck intro to bourbon if we're drinking it neat on this adventure. So, I should have gone for the 101. Everyone online was like, hey, don't buy the 81. This comes in at 40.5% alcohol, so 81 proof. Everyone was like, don't buy the 81. You should buy the 101. It's like $10 more expensive and way better. Lesson learned. The good news is when we get to the 101, which will probably be after Bullet and Maker's Mark at least, but when we get to the 101, we'll have a little bit of, if I don't make a bunch of old fashions, we'll have a little bit of the 81 proof Wild Turkey bourbon. Now, this was a cheap bourbon. I'm not gonna lie, it was the cheapest bourbon in the shop. But it was familiar to me. It was a well-recognizable brand, so I thought, hey, good or not, whether this is usually mixed or not, this is a good entry level for us to at least have a base to jump off of for bourbon. So let's try this out. Wild Turkey bourbon. I'm not too familiar with bourbon, other than I like it in old fashions. It has to be at least 51% corn and aged in new oak barrels. And American, I think. It has to be made in America. But otherwise, I don't know too much about it, so this is a whole new experience for us on the nose. You get a lot of candy sweetness, a lot of sugary, not like confectionery, but like jujubes almost in terms of that sweetness level. Not the fruit of jujubes, but the sweetness level of it. Ooh. There's a bit of a cherry note in there. It's trying to be cherry. Something in there is trying to be cherry, but not quite doing a great job of it. It's there. Kind of maybe an underripe pear. Cherries, pears. Not a ripe pear though. Again, it's like trying to be pear, but it's not quite pear. It's there. I can get the cherry and I can get the pear, but it's not quite that present. And that could just be the proof. Maybe the Wild Turkey 101 just has enough alcohol content that it's carrying those flavors through. Yeah, it's really not, it's not terrible. It's not great or anything, but it's bourbon. It's definitely bourbon. Candy sweetness, cherries, pears. You definitely get the oak. You definitely get that like new oak barrel taste or smell. I don't know how to describe it other than bourbon, you can just tell it's been in the new oak barrel. Yeah, nothing else is really coming up for me. We'll revisit it after we taste it. Let's go on the palate. Ooh. All right, there's a little bit of spice to it, especially on the back palate, but nothing crazy. Again, it's only 41 or 81 proof. I can't really pick out much of anything. It's just kind of bland. It's like bland bourbon. It's like bourbon if you're gonna mix it with a bunch of stuff, right? It's not bourbon for the sake of being bourbon. This is about what I expect, but it's just not doing anything for me. It's not bad, it tastes good. I could sip this neat, right? It's not a bad taste, but it's not really doing much for me. Yeah, again, I'm getting a lot more on the nose than on the taste or on the palate. Yeah, on the palate it's just sweet, a little bit of like cherry in there maybe. You definitely get a new oak barrel, a little bit of spice kick at the end, but really nothing spectacular at all. I'm gonna give it one more go here. Again, so the nose is present, it's there, it's trying to do something. It's really trying hard and just not quite getting it, right? But I can see that it's really trying to be, it's like a toddler trying to be a big boy bourbon is the sense I get. And again, I'm not experienced with bourbon. Maybe I just don't fancy neat bourbon as much, right? And maybe I'll say the same thing when we get to some nicer bourbons. But yeah, it's lacking on the nose, but at least trying to be something. Yeah, the more you sit with it, you get a little bit of that. I don't know if it's citrus or pear. Again, I can't make it out. The palate is so discombobulating, but you get that more through the middle, right? It's more present on your upper palate at the front, and then it kind of dives down in the back and then gives you the spice at the end. But it's not. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've had enough for this review. I think I've had enough to give this a score. I'm trying here. All right, this is gonna be my first meh whiskey. Everything so far has been like good. This is just underneath, it's at meh. It's not bad, it's sippable. It's drinkable. I liked it in my old fashioned, if that helps. Like, it was fine in an old fashioned. It wasn't great, but it was an old fashioned, right? It's just not doing anything for me. And it's not bad. It's not doing anything bad. It's just not doing anything good either. It's just meh. It just exists in the whiskey world to be average, to be ordinary. Like, it doesn't exist to do anything else. And you know what? This was the cheapest bottle of bourbon at the shop. And if this is the cheapest bottle of bourbon that I could possibly buy, this is doing very well. Because it's not the cheapest bottle of Canadian whiskey I can get, or rye, like, it's awful, right? But this is the cheapest one there, and it's all right, it's meh. My final score is meh. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Wild Turkey, and feel free to let me know how dumb I am for not getting the Wild Turkey 101. Thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you had fun, Whiskey Adventurers. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, show the adventurers the love. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another video. In the description, there's a lot of links for you. We also have a Patreon where there's some exclusive content if you wanted to go and become an adventurer on our Patreon as well. Otherwise, final thoughts, it's a meh. It's a meh. It's a bourbon. It exists to be a bourbon, but it's not bad. It's really not bad, but it's not great. It's just meh. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.